Okay, storytelling Ron here. This is episode 8. I'll try to go quick. Well, maybe not. Drinking my wine. It's New Year's Day. I didn't even go out and party last night. I did the previous night because I didn't plan it very well. But anyway, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to do, this is about an adventure and kind of how it's progressing and what I've learned on this one. And now this one's going to be more of a critique. Yeah, critique of Star Wars, kind of what I've been learning now, and it's also a critique on my own adjustments. I got to adjust from D&D to Star Wars. It's definitely two styles of GM and game mastering. And one really important thing is that I'm looking around for the dice. Is in Dungeons and Dragons, right? You roll 20. You know, I've had that, man, so many times. The last one with my daughter. I gotta say this one. The daughters are elves, and they got some noble ancient queen armor and a sword, I believe. Armor and yes, or a bow. Totally the noble elves. You know, this was going to the royal line, and there's no way. And she's like, well, I'm going to persuade them, and you know, because we got, you know, they're all part of the adventure, and everyone respects them, but this is of the royal line, and had to pause there, cooking some bratwurst. And I'm in my pajamas. So they were in the royal court and all that, and I was like, and they wanted to the armor and the bow, and they're high level, like 7th, 8th level, and I'm like, I'm not gonna give it to them yet because I need to do some stuff. The only way she could do it is she rolled a 20. She rolled 20, man. She jumped up, hopping as a 20-year-old woman. Boom! My daughter, 20, boom, 20. And I was like, I didn't even get to the time to think about what it all meant, and I just you know, and they're both screaming, and and so the armor just came floating out, and all the royal, you know, or elves are like, well, it appears the queen has chosen her champions for her armor and bow or whatever. So Star Wars doesn't have that. You know, it doesn't have where you can immediately see the roll, because when you roll the dice, you got to, like, you know, you got to compare and take out, you know, you got to figure out what the final verdict of the dice is. Now there is a crit roll. Obviously, you can get a crit, which is the triumph. There is one, you know, the dice where you can get a crit, but it's not the same, and it still has some factors that you got to figure out. So after you roll, you have to figure out what's going on. So it's a matter of changing, you know, your understanding of that and adjusting. Where does the excitement come in? I think it comes in after you see the results, and then you start explaining what happens, and then you get excited, you know. And you got to understand that mindset when you're playing as a GM. You really got to let them roll, let them figure out the dice, and then as soon as you know that it's really good, you're like, and then boom, you know, really, you know, put the climactic feeling after, you know, they figure out the dice, because in D&D it's right when you roll, you know, that's, you know. But in Star Wars it's not like that. You okay, now I got the success, I got a failure, a success, you know. You're divvying up the successes and failures into, so there's a bit of pause there. And when my younger daughter is telling me she doesn't like that, and I was thinking after this adventure we just had here that, you know, they weren't going to play again, but thankfully my older daughter goes, no, I want to play again, you know, because she was, so that was good. But I did have, even had, do not bring a 2-year-old. You know, don't bring a 2-year-old. You know, so that was one for an hour and a half that did not work, and then the call, and I don't know, problems, and then finally got rid of it. But then the guy was just exhausted after that. So that whole element, and you know, it'll get better. But and then another guy who was a visitor relative, and he knew nothing about. He never played role playing games. That's fine. But we know we're in the Star Wars world. It's never more Star Wars. So that was, you know, that too was a little. I couldn't even say Stormtrooper. You know what I mean? I couldn't without, you know, or Sand People or Tusken Raider. Oh yeah, it's the same thing. Well, what? Well, okay. So that was a little goofy because they were visiting, and then, you know, just. But anyway, so that was tough, and the pacing of this got really a little grindy, especially with the rolls. And I made a mistake. I really think you should not do random encounters. You should just have something that you've planned out, and that's the way it is in the adventures too. I was trying to make like random stuff happening here. You know, I've got all these different places, you know, where they're going to be doing things. Let me just check out. And they, at this point, they decided it was a pretty funny adventure, and I'll go through it. But I'm kind of giving you some GM advice. I wouldn't recommend doing random. I was trying to do randomness about it, and I would just you're gonna have this on the second day or somewhere around the second day. This happens and this happens, and I would just kind of go ahead and do that because I was trying to do random. There's you really you technically don't have any randomness in this. There's no tables. There's no number dice. You're supposed to have a percentile dice for the crit table, which I do have, but I don't really have a randomness to that. And so I would just, if you're going to have something happen, just have it happen, and at some point in there, in it. I was trying to do it to that when they roll the dice, if they ever rolled a threat, the total failure crit, that when they rolled that, then they would get something bad happening. But I would not wait for that. I would just, when it feels right in the story, just add it in there, because that was, I think that really flowed better. I tried to do the random thing, and that really did mess up my pacing and their pacing because I hadn't rolled. And by the way, the less rolls, the better. I would not have the entire team group do perception roll or vigilance roll if I'm having. I was trying to see if some reeks would. They ended up going hunting some banthas, and I was trying to see if some reeks, the big bull-looking things in the arena in clone troopers, whatever, would come up and attack them, and I kept having them roll for that, and it wasn't good like that. Just for vigilance or whatever, or perception, and just if you're going to do it, at some point in their little bantha hunt there, just go ahead and do the reeks, or don't do the reeks if they're already having enough fun in their adventure. So I would probably move. I'm personally, I don't think I'm going to do random anymore. I'm just going to decide that it happens, that it's going to happen. And the less dice roll. So in other words, also, I would say if you do a vigilance roll, I would just have the best person do the vigilance roll, and then you can have the other guys they can add to that vigilance roll. Well, I've got a scanner. Okay, that's definitely 2 boost die or whatever, or 1 boost die. I've got a really good skill. Okay, well, you can give her maybe one. Give her an extra, either proficiency die, upgrade in her dice, or maybe an extra just boost die, just to keep it simple. I just wouldn't have a bunch of rolls because it's not. It doesn't feel right when you have everyone rolling. Just have and they're all counting their. I wouldn't do that. I think just have one person do it, and if they want others can add to it, that's fine. But just one, and then you can add your negatives or whatever. So I'm starting to think that as well. And the less die rolling, the better, because you just want them to just get into like story and stuff. So anyway, that's my advice that I'm learning and critiquing about this. Another thing I don't like about it is, and I love the games, I'm really enjoying it, but it's just that all the creatures and adversaries are all over the place, and I guess you got to buy another book called Adversaries, but it doesn't really. I think it just has NPCs and not necessarily creatures. And it'd be cool to have like planets with all the creatures, like one big like monster manual kind of thing. I would really like that. And I'm starting to make my own, so I'll show. I'm gonna show you right now, just because I'm here. And I drew these. So these are ones I've drawn out. This big scary. And this is kind of after seeing Luke Rise of Skywalker. Oh, you've seen it. And this is a minor thing, but just a creature in it. But I'm doing this baddie, and then these are like baddies in the sand. Oh, I just moved that guy. I just meant to scroll up. These are my minis I'm gonna be doing, and I got main stats for them. This is a scary one too. This one tends to hide in the temples and down, crash spacecraft kind of thing, vessel or whatever. And these are just in the path. Jawas hate these guys, but then they want to eat them too. In this guy, and I wrote some stuff on them, and I'm gonna post them on my mini dudes, and it's got like I did all the little stats for them, little story, a little explanation of them, and then their D&D counter version as well. But yeah, I'll be doing stuff like this because I really enjoy it. Fun, and hopefully, and at some point I'll try to do maps and like battle maps for Star Wars and D&D. I'm still really into drawing creatures right now. So for the story, what I had them do. So this is like episode 7 or whatever episode it is for them. What is this? Episode 3. They were on 3 now. It was kind of tough because I had the 2 new players, right, coming in like as a one-off. What was I going to do with them? Oh, okay. Family's here. Family's back. I got to close the screen door. Hold on. Okay, so I had family. Okay, so I had the 2 when they came. I had 2 new characters. So what did I do? Okay, I think it was a really cool idea because I'm so cool. I had the rebel Age of Rebellion, and so I made him a bodyguard, and the one and the other guy was an agitator, and so they're the New Republic because I'm doing it right after Return of the Jedi, or 10 years after. But they're the New Republic, and they're coming into the Outer Rims, Tatooine, and they're trying to, get the locals to resist any Imperial any offshoot Imperial conspirators or whatever. And so they were like this young agitator and a bodyguard looking, to help find locals to do the thing. Of course, the agitator was my person who had a kid, but if only, I know he would have really loved playing the agitator, but he did eventually. But it was rough going. And of course, the new guy was a bodyguard because it was nice and easy. And he got into it though. It was fun though. But I was like, man, this is frustrating because the kid and that kind of issue. So definitely next time I'm gonna play him like, hey. But it was during the time of family and holiday and all that, so it's okay. I'm just really grateful that my older daughter was like, "No, I want to play again." Like she was like, "This is our thing now." I mean, we're still doing Dungeons and Dragons. We'll probably start Tomb of Annihilation. We'll start that back up again. But in this one, like they had to come back. They had done so much successful stuff in the previous that they had to come back and sell and trade back the writers, sell their banthas, get some money off of that. And I did the upgrade things. I believe that's in the previous video where I talked about gear and upgrading, and where she got her vibro blade got a serrated edges. So that's, to me, is another issue, is that I don't think, especially if you're doing Outer Rims or Edge of the Empire, they shouldn't have access to all, right? It should really make sense to the areas. They have a couple of things they have access to, whether it's upgrade stuff, whatever gear it is, and you as a GM should control that bit by bit, introduce, especially new players. Now, if someone that's a veteran and they're used to that kind of thing and they know what they want, fine, but they got to go somewhere where that stuff's available. But again, I would as a GM, I would play that. I would role play out what's available. So they dealt with doing the buyback and all that for the mounts. They sold the banthas. I probably should type this out. I don't think I typed it out. And then I had them go back over. And of course I wanted them to get things. And they got the serrated edge thing here. Oh, they bought the slug thrower shells. I don't know if I got. I think I told them about the Berserker sacks. I think they got some, actually. I think they played that off. Chuga did the land speeder thing, which he basically wanted them to rent. And these are all different, new jobs that they could do. And they got all the job offers, and they all discussed what they were going to do, which ones they thought they could do. So that was good. It was still a little rough. Yeah, I got a Sarlacc here. And that was cool. And let me go back to the region area. So what they decided to do was from Chuga, they're going to get the land speeder, and it's only going to take them, it's a day for a walker, or one of the mounts, the Eopies or the Dewbacks. But with the land speeder, they'll only take an hour to travel that much. So about 3 hours to get down the Vapor Farm, pick up the old the old. How do I zoom in here? Can I zoom in with this? I forgot. Yeah. The little land speeder there that she salvaged, but they're still he wanted the hull, the frame, so he could rebuild it up and make a new one. So 3 hours there, pick it up and take it back. Easy job. So I kept selling it as an easy job, which is of course to them is any player is this is not an easy job, but it was an easy job. So I was gonna like 3 hours there. I was gonna make it all scary, but nothing happens. Because they killed so many of the Sand Raiders, I figured that the Tusken Raiders at this point are all back at their camp. Half their warriors are dead, and they're just like, okay, we got to rethink our strategy. You know what I mean? So they're not going to attack them. So no one's going to bother them. The Rancors and all the other adventurers over here, the Banthas and the Reeks are out here. I was just going to let them clean. Anyway, so what they decided to do, of course, with the Agitator, he finally got back and was a little pissy, but I know he's a great player though. They decided to go out to do the Bantha hunt and get them with the land speeder. Oh, and they got a grab sled with a little like R2 unit on it with a crane, so they could easily pick up the land speeder and then haul it back. And they were dealing with the guy. Good Italian wine. Okay. But what's funny about the Bantha thing was that, and I've got the picture. It's on my Instagram. But it's on my phone. I don't want to get it out right now. Oh, I can go to my Instagram. Maybe I can look at it. Hold on a minute. Yeah, here it is. So I took a picture of the Banthas. Now they're not with the Tusken Raiders, just the Banthas. And this is the grab sled, and then this is their characters on a land speeder. And again, these are all minis I'll be putting for free on my Patreon, because they're not mine. They're just the action figures, but they'll be available on there. So what was funny is they were shooting them, and they had the slug throwers, and they couldn't penetrate they got soaked tin, so they would just get poof, 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 and the Banthas got upset, started chasing after them. Of course, they kept their medium distance, and they were just going to try to keep shooting them until they got a crit. And what was funny is that the Agitator said, "Well, let me drive because I don't have a good shot." and then the smuggler can start shooting with the slug thrower. So he did all these foibles and rolls. Basically, like, he just kept messing up, and I basically described it as he jumped out, it moved ahead. Oh no, he had to race up, get back in. It was like coordination, athletics, and then piloting, and he kind of failed at all of them. Or whatever. It was kind of hilarious. But basically, by the time he got the piloting, they had caught up and slammed into the grab sled. Just took a whole dent out of it. Didn't destroy it, just dented it. So Chuga's gonna get So that was kind of funny. They're like, they're like, that was at least a funny moment. But then they just took off. They couldn't deal with killing them. They said, let's just go get the land speeder and get back. And they realized they needed something more powerful to get the banthas. And at some point, I was going to have the Reeks attack, but this was enough action, and I should have. And that was where I was saying I kept doing like the random thing, which this was enough. This was enough action for them. I didn't need to add a scarier moment or anything like that into it. It was just more humorous and funny with them, because the guy said, "Do not damage my. Just go there, get the land speeder, come back. Don't damage it. The deposit and and I'll give pay you well." So they ended up going and getting it, nothing, and came back, and they got. So that was a fun point. This is my Instagram page with crazy stuff, but and so they so then, okay, so what the next that they chose to do, and this is kind of where it ends, but it was kind of fun, because that's how that really did all these deals, and then that was the adventure part, and I felt a little bad because for the new guy, but then having the kid there really kind of slowed us down and messed things up, and then when you kind of get rid of it was still kind of so definitely next time let's plan this out. We'll babysit outside of role playing. So then they went to what I had set up here was the come on, where is it? Oh, secret stuff. Okay, yeah, it's my little way I'm organizing. Let me just turn this part off, and it's Savrip's old mine. Savrip is obviously that one creature on the chest plate. This guy, Savrip. So this guy and two guys are in there. They don't actually get there. They didn't even get this far. They just got to let me turn off all that. Why is this under that? Huh? Okay, sorry. Sorry. Not everything's organized the way I can remember it. Then speeder. Okay, so they got this far. They started here. I said, look, you can't don't go outside the map. Oh, I was on the table. I have my TV down there, and I plopped them on. Oops, I can't show you. Plopped them over here. Like, this is your area. You got to come. You can come down here, go over here. That's it. And I felt like we were rushed too because it was, whatever. Because he said we had to leave soon. So yeah. So they came down here. Finally, was able to show this. Yeah, had that hidden, and of course they did the whole but they had stun grenades, so that was cool. They just tossed them in there, didn't kill it, but stunned it. And Rope was able to, did a little couple of rolls, did fine, was able to bring them back up. But the stun grenade to me made that thing close back up, and didn't want to mess with anyone, because especially when a grenade goes in, boom, that's gonna really mess it up. So they went this way. And I even have a smaller little Sarlapse that I had to pop up here, and then they had one more stun grenade. They took care of that, and then they went down on the cliff on the rope, and that was what was humorous was that the last guy couldn't tie it to anything, so he tied it to a bit of a rock and then threw it down the small Sarlacc that was right here. So that's kind of funny. But they got to here, and that was it. So they hadn't even gone into the mine. Yeah. So and this is the mine, and they started here. They're going to start here, and they're going to go look around, and they were going to find, just because I'm still enjoying myself, they're going to find that Imperial land speeder with a gun on it in there, broken, that they could fix maybe, and parts of a TIE bomber, and I think I've already mentioned this before, but over here was going to be hidden a small piece of the Kyber crystal, I believe. That's introducing my daughter's Force user character into the journey of the lightsaber. So she's going to get a little piece and learn or whatever, that if she could add that to her vibro blade, that would make it extra tough. She'll add get a little energy thing going on that. It's not enough to make a lightsaber, but she's like, oh, what? So it's like introducing that to her. So that'd be cool. That's going to be fun to do. Anyway, that's coming up. She better not be watching this. So yeah, that was it. Again, yeah, the critiques of the die rolling. that was rough. Let me just end on here. So that was the die rolling thing. Got to understand that. Got to understand how that works. And I'm actually going to do another video on the die rolling. Because now that I'm playing it more and understanding it better, I probably should redo it, because the one I did before, while interesting and fun, is not exactly correct. But anyway. But yeah, that's it. Just enjoying myself. I know this is like me blathering, but and of course I'm drinking wine. But yeah. So that was this is episode 8, and I hope this was helpful too, and gives you some ideas, and especially about the whole understanding the die rolls and GMing and how the pacing and all that. Okay.